Ian Scott, you're the president of Birmingham Trades Council. When we spoke about 4 weeks ago, just after the shutdown, the Trades Council was planning to continue to operate under the conditions of lockdown that have now lasted over 5 weeks. Have you managed to keep going, and how?
Yes, we're up front with technology. We are cooperating with other groups and organisations to ensure that we get the message across, keeping people informed and assisting each other in our campaign work on the current crisis of corona.
How do you think the virus has affected the people in the Midlands?
Quite widely. On the one hand, people have been fairly responsible, keeping a social distancing. The supermarkets, they've been very sensible. They've been shopping responsibly. Out in the street, likewise, fairly responsibly. Not too many people out and about at night. The buses are running fairly empty, as are the trains. Very little traffic on the road. But on the other hand, because people are spending more time at home, there's been an estimated 700% increase in domestic violence. And unfortunately, the social knock-on effects of all this remains to be seen. Don't forget, there's also a boredom factor. If people can't go out to pubs or clubs or various other forms of entertainment, people will get restless. And there's a social impact that remains to be seen, which could be developing as a very nasty undercurrent to all this. Hopefully not, but time will tell.
In public sector and health workers and those in the care sectors face unsafe working conditions with the lack of personal protection equipment and with NHS already under pressure. How do you think they are coping?
Oh, clearly they're struggling. The NHS has been underfunded for a great many years. Those conditions have now been brought to the forefront. It's obvious. There's been press exposures about the lack of equipment. Government has continued to give some funding to the health service, but unfortunately the people in the front line, the health workers, are the ones who are suffering. They're the ones who are the victims. And it's looking at the rate of death, it's between doctors and frontline workers, it's about fairly equal. So no one is exempt from all this and no one is safe from all this. And with the unsafe working conditions, you have cleaners who are as much at risk as anyone else. So take on board the care workers or other social workers and people come into daily contact on a face-to-face basis with patients and what have you. They're all at risk. How are they coping? Well, as best they can. But unfortunately, with insufficient protective equipment, breathing masks, gloves and what have you, it remains to be seen just how many more people will sadly become victim of this virus and or die because of this virus, or because of a lack of investment initially in the health service and the government being very late in the day in taking measures to counteract the virus in the first place.
The unprecedented situation we are facing today because of the virus have also sharply exposed some of the fault lines in our society. We have found that those workers who are key to our survival and well-being are one of the worst treated workers on minimum wages and on zero-hour contracts. What do you think trade unions and labor movements should do post this shutdown to ensure those who have been key to our well-being are properly treated and their working conditions improved?
Yeah. Well, when we talk about zero-hour contracts, they were endorsed by the EU Commission way back in 2006. And clearly, the trade union movement in Britain at the time did nothing about that. Now, we talk about minimum wages, although it's been political, and the Labour Party has tried to force an improvement in minimum wages over the years. They've not been very successful. And likewise, any attempt to outlaw zero-hour contracts, again, equally unsuccessful. Labour didn't win the last two elections. The trade union movement and labour movement need to get organised on this question, because the health workers deserve a better pay deal and better contracts and better terms and conditions than what they currently experience. But that's going to be a campaign driven from the trade unions, bottom upwards. That's what we need to do. This is what we need to support these initiatives and moving people forward. There are fault lines in our society, and the people who are lowest paid are the ones who are falling victim mainly to this particular virus in the current crisis. What's the situation we're facing is that the people who do the hardest and dirtiest work, like the care workers and whatever, are always the ones who are in the front line, and generally speaking, are the ones who are the lowest paid. Now, the trade unions need to get on board and come up with ideas and initiatives for the workforce in general, and also for health workers particularly, in various campaign strategies to improve their lot.
Thank you, Ian.